I love how this is my own room and I shoot here every week and I still don't know how to frame myself. Is that good? Are we pleased? Great! Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Rosica. I'm the Midnight Reader. Today we are going to do a second video in the Summoning a Booktuber series. I have previously summoned Ariel Bissett, and today we are going to summon perhaps my favorite booktuber of all time, the wonderful, the lovely Allison Paiges. She's married, she lives in Belgium, she talks about neurodiversity and living with chronic illness on her channel, and her whole thing is like celebrating the joys and the mundanities of life, right? So finding joy in the little tiny in-betweens that mostly make up our lives. I of course love her channel. I found her videos in the year of our Lord 2020, which was a great time for me, as it was for many people. I was a ICU nurse deep in the heart of COVID land, and I was having a great time. JK, I was crying every day and I thought I was gonna die. Keep it light. It's fine, it was a dumpster fire. Healing has happened. But I love her videos, I love her humor, I love how she has this ability to bathe all her videos in this warm, cozy, orangey light, which I cannot figure out how to do because every time I film a video and edit it, I discover that I look like a ghost. Don't tell me to go to the color correction tab in DaVinci Resolve because I'm not going in there. That whole thing is just like gremlins and shit I don't understand. I refuse. I will be a ghost forever. Allie has a very eclectic reading taste, such as myself. So that means that we actually have quite a bit of overlap with a lot of books. Books we have both loved included Braiding Sweetgrass, the Monk and Robot series, Legends and Lattes, the Anthropocene Reviewed. She also likes thrillers. She likes ones that, you know, play the movie in her head. For her, that's Riley Sager. For me, it's Ruth Ware. There is, however, a worrying amount of not overlap. For example, she absolutely hated Circe. I'm pretty sure she DNF'd it. I think I gave it 5 solid stars. She loved Convenience Store Woman. I thought that was the most jarringly strange book I've perhaps ever read, and I have no desire to ever read it again. She often dislikes hyped books. I'm a basic bitch who hands out 4 and 5 stars like they're fucking Tic Tacs. So I'm not sure how this is gonna go. And I would suggest if you've never seen her channel and checked out her videos, you really should. She's a wonderful book reviewer. She makes videos for youtube.com full time. She's great. I have used some of her catchphrases in real life. I do say "what's up punks" to my infant daughter. She loves it. As every good witch knows, you have to acquire some items that speak to different parts of the person's life who you're trying to summon. I don't know where my super cute witchy scarf went, so we're just gonna use like this winter wonderland as the backdrop. First things first, Allie lives in Belgium. This is a stretch. I'm sorry, I don't have anything from Belgium in my house, I'm pretty sure. So I got Dutch processed cocoa. Now, Rosica, you say, Dutch is from the Netherlands, and I would say, au contraire. Au contraire. Dutch is also the language that is spoken in Belgium, which Allie is learning, and she recently passed a really hard fluency test. So, you know, good for her, because learning a language is crap. So we have a little bit of Dutch. Dutch is here. Also, fun fact, when Allie was living stateside in her college years, she actually lived in a small town called Ithaca. It's in upstate New York. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a little hippie town. It's mostly known for the fact that Cornell is there. They have a couple of banging ice cream shops, tons of waterfalls, and if you didn't see that coming, I have also lived in Ithaca, New York. So we share this, which is quite cool. Allie, if you ever see this video, do you miss Wegmans? Because I don't live in Ithaca anymore, and I really miss Wegmans. Wegmans is like a grocery store chain that just, it slaps. It's so expensive and it's so large, and they rearrange things like 4 times a day so you can never find anything, but it's also kind of a wonderland. I miss Wegmans. To summon the spirit of Ithaca, I have a little tiny t-shirt which a friend bought for my daughter. It says Ithaca is gorgeous, because that's the town pun, and everyone thinks it's funny. Allie's also vegan, so I brought out my tofu press. These things, shockingly helpful. Can confirm. One of her favorite book series is the Tea Dragon Society. I have the card game, also just lovely and quite fun and good for 2 to 4 players. Not super complicated, very relaxing. The tiny flavor dragons are gonna go on the scarf. We've got a couple of rocks to witchy it up a little bit. And then my only actual witchy skill is that I know how to read tarot cards. I taught it to myself as like a fun party trick. So that's my witchy party trick, is I can read tarot for fun not for money. One of my favorite decks is called the Considerate Cat Tarot deck. All the cats in here are paintings of rescue cats, I believe in Canada, that were available for adoption at the time they made the deck, and all the proceeds of making the deck went to helping support the cats. I picked 2 cards out of here that just reminded me of her and her cats. This is the Sun. I picked it because I thought it was lovely. It's the joy in mundanity. It's the joy in just a little bit of warmth and a nice stretch. The Sun is a very happy card in tarot. The second card I just picked because it reminded me of her cat who passed away, whose name is Howie. And I think of the cats in the deck, it looks the most like him. This is the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups in tarot is often kind of a card of indecision. I actually like how it's portrayed in this tarot drawing, which I feel like is less indecision and more of like an aloofness, not needing to necessarily pick out the path that's put in front of you, and maybe just enjoying the choices for a while. I picked it because I thought it looked like Howie. All right, so I'll show you my witchy spread. Here it is in all its glory. I think the tofu press is doing the most right now. Hang on, we gotta get in character. The baby's sleeping right now, so much like last time, I'm just entertaining myself on a early Sunday morning. I did buy this at a Ren Fair a few years ago. Thanks for asking. Allison Pages, please come hither with these offerings I have laid forth to give me some book recommendations. It happened. Her spirit has come forth, as evidenced by me wearing this super cute merch that she made. Look, it has snails. It says there's no rush. I love her. Anyway, the book she recommended to me, I did pick out of her favorites list. I mean, her spirit came forth and whispered them. The first one is called Pure Color by Sheila Heti. I don't know anything about this book. I think it's about a woman who gets stuck in a leaf. I'd have no other descriptors and I don't know if that's right, but I think that sounds like a good time, so we're gonna read that. Next, I picked The Little Prince by Antoine, unpronounceable last French name, Antoine Le Frenchman. This is a classic. I have never read The Little Prince. I do believe I had a copy when I was a child, and I think I started reading it, and I'm really sorry, but I think I stopped because I thought it was boring, and then I read Dr. Dolittle instead. I don't know what that says about me as a child. We're gonna try it. Next, I picked Miss Ice Sandwich by Miyako Kawakami. I believe it's a story about a boy who falls in love with the woman at the grocery store who makes the sandwiches. But mostly, I believe it's just a story about his life. So these are all kind of like sort of short, but like strange little novels. These are not books that I would normally pick up, but she has highly recommended in some of her videos. So we're gonna see if I like them. I will say, because all 3 of these books are quite short, I am gonna leave the option for a bonus book. So I'm giving myself about a month to do this video. And if I finish quite early in the month, I will add in another. Cannot tell you which book it's gonna be because of course the universe hasn't spoken to that yet. But still, I suggest we go forth and start reading. Welcome back to this rainy day. I have finished 2 of the books, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise since they were quite short. I finished Pure Color by Sheila Heti. I don't know how to feel about this book, and I also don't know how to describe the plot. There is one, but I don't know how to describe it. It vaguely follows the outline of a woman's life, but my favorite part of the book is, of course, the part which was the only thing I knew about it, which is at some point in her life she gets stuck in a leaf. And that's kind of what it is. It's this like abstract narrative that vaguely outlines a woman's life. I would describe it as a very writey book. It's a book that you would read to study the writing, what an artist can do with a pen. It's art. That being said, it's a weird book and I don't know how to rate it because there are parts of it where I'm like, wow, that's one of the most profound things I think I've ever read, and I'm going to keep that with me and keep thinking about that like probably for the rest of my life. And then several paragraphs after that, there'll be like a sentence where you're like, that was a really weird and gross way to talk about incest. My guess is if you like Sheila Heti's writing, you'll enjoy this book. She has written quite a few other more famous books. I think the most famous is like Motherhood. It's profound, it's weird, it's profoundly weird. I can't rate it on the star rating scale because it defies the star rating scale. Therefore, I will rate it one leaf worth getting stuck in. I also finished The Little Prince, which I read in about one sitting. I don't know why I didn't finish this as a child. I definitely remember the first 2 chapters. I think I started reading it a couple of times. What I think happened was I was very ahead of my age group for reading when I was little. The writing itself, at least in the beginning, is kind of this very sort of like dry, stilted, old-timey sort of style. I think I just hated that as a kid because I was probably 7 or 8 years old when I tried reading this the first time, and so it just didn't like capture me at all, which is too bad because it is definitely one of the best books I've ever read. It's a book about adulthood, it's a book about childhood, it's a book about how adults really screw up a lot of the cool parts of life. It's deeply touching and charming and witty and lovely and funny and sad and all of those things, and I want a copy to keep on my shelf forever, and I'm gonna read it to my daughter someday. 5 magnificent stars for The Little Prince, and a gigantic thank you to Allison Pages for, recommending this book to me, because I don't think I would have ever read it because the only memories I had were of not enjoying the first few chapters as a kid. And what a shame that would have been, because what a lovely book it is. What a lovely book it is. The baby is yelling on my little monitor, so I have to go back in and take care of her. I think I have 1 book to go, and then we'll see if I have time for a bonus. We'll see how long this takes me to read. I don't even remember the last book that I have to read, because this is taking me a while. So one book to go. This one, I don't remember what it is. And maybe a bonus. What's up? I'm sick. I have a summer cold, and I don't feel good. Today's normally my filming day, but I think we're gonna lay in bed whenever the baby's sleeping. That's the riveting content we can expect today, and I'm gonna try not to capture most of it on film, because I think it's probably gonna be pretty boring. I'm halfway through Miss Ice Sandwich. It is pretty good so far. It's definitely more like a slice of life story, and Miss Ice Sandwich is the nickname this little kid made up for the sandwich lady at the counter, because she has this electric blue eyeshadow and big eyes and wields tongs at light speed. She's what we would call in the East Coast nice, which means she does exactly what she's supposed to do, but not with a lick of like extra customer service. But she does her job. So people yell at her and they think she looks funny, and this little kid is just like super enamored with her. But also it's about like his friends in school. He's like a 4th grader. Also, I think he's a boy. I'm not 100% sure because we've never learned his name, and I think it's just alluded to that he's a boy. Could be a girl. Not sure, but it's pretty cute. I'm enjoying it. The little kid's definitely, I would say, somewhere on the autistic spectrum or has OCD, one of the two. It is what I had hoped Convenience Store Woman would be. An odd little story about a Japanese supermarket and the people whose lives intersect with it, but it's charming instead of grotesque. I'm not finished with this yet, but I would say if you didn't like Convenience Store Woman, or maybe if you did, you would probably like this book too, because it's like Convenience Store Woman, just not gross. I'm gonna keep reading that, and then I'm gonna see if I'm asleep. Yep, them's the words. Hoping for the Dayquil to kick in, like a boss. Later the same day, I did manage to finish Miss Ice Sandwich, which it's a very short book. As all of these were, it was a very short book, so it only was like another half an hour of reading, which was perfect because I was feeling crummy today. I really liked Miss Ice Sandwich. It was just a very cute novel. I stick with saying that it reminded me a lot of how I wish Convenience Store Woman had actually been. This was the sort of story that I was hoping for and expecting. Really enjoyed it. It was sweet. It's about first love and how other people's opinions of our crushes can really affect them, but also how if we're just a little bit brave, we can maybe get a little piece of what we want. I really liked it. It was extremely sweet. You hear the thunder? It is just absolutely flooding outside right now. I have managed to finish these 3 books in, I think, about 2.5, 3 weeks. So I think that is time for me to read one more book. I've been going back and forth because I was thinking of picking a book that I hadn't really intended to read, but I decided, you know what? I feel ill. The medication can only do so much. I'm gonna pick a book that I actually want to read. This one is actually on my beach read TBR, which is The Bandit Queens. I did hear about it through her channel. She's the reason it's on my summer TBR, so I think I'm just gonna read it for this video. A strong 4.5 stars for this book, and I think I will try to read something else by the author. And now I think I'm off to read The Bandit Queens. In the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, why hello there. It's like a few weeks later. I had planned on doing little check-ins for the last book on the list, The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff, but it turns out The Bandit Queens is a book that is absolutely unputdownable. So whenever I was reading it, all I was doing was reading it, and I was unable to make thoughts in a video format. So I have finished it. It was the longest book of the 4 that I read by far. It was, as I said, unputdownable, and I absolutely freaking loved it. The story takes place in rural India in a small town village. It follows the story of Geeta. Geeta's husband has left her, only he didn't come back to claim the house, which has his name on the deed. He didn't come back to claim the money, so everyone just assumes that he's dead. And the thing is, everyone assumes that Geeta killed him. And Geeta, facing ostracism and being outcast by her tiny community, decides that maybe it's a little bit better to be thought a murderess than simply an abandoned woman. She has grown accustomed to the life of ostracism, to the life of childlessness and husbandlessness. All that changes when another woman in town comes to her for what Geeta now finds is her expertise, which is removing your nose ring, or in other words, killing your husband. It follows these would-be murderesses as Geeta has to figure out if she's gonna start helping the village women off their husbands. Abso-freaking-lutely. Read trigger warnings for this. It covers a lot of very serious topics, including violence against women and assault. It does it in a way that's darkly comic, which helps it rise out of the fatigue of the darkness of these topics. It's blackly funny, but then it's also covering huge social, societal issues. They're talking about the caste system. White people are kind of frittering around in the background trying to fix all the society's problems with solar lights and microloans and NGOs, and those things are helping, but they're not really addressing any of the major issues that the characters are having to deal with, which is also accurate. This is a debut novel. The author, I believe, is a lawyer. That's what she does for her real job. And I really hope she writes more books because she has an astoundingly fun voice, and she pays off every little detail. She pays off details about the appliance that Geeta's saving up for in her microloan group. She pays off every little conversation and every little detail, and if you stick with the book and you get through the parts that are hard, man, is it worth it. I can't say enough about how well written this was, how funny it was. I will say, if you don't like swearing, you won't like the main character. She goes out of her way to be as prickly as possible because there's no reason to be friendly to these people who have shoved her out of society. She has some absolutely amazing swears. It was everything I was craving in a book that I didn't know I needed. A++, 5 stars, will probably make my top 10 of the year. I highly recommend if you're looking for a book about badass women. So that's it. Those are the 4 books that I read that Allison Pages recommended to me. I thought I'd take a minute and read you a couple of quotes from the 4 books that I read, because I'm realizing I don't really do that while I'm reviewing, so you can get kind of an idea of the tone of the book. From Pure Color, people could return to books at any time and find them right there. Those burning souls, their words as bright as the day they were written. How Mira loved artists, how she loved books. As she lay in bed with her dying father, she saw how great art was as she lay in his bed, and how faithful a book was, and how strong. A place you could be safe, apart from the world, held inside a world that would never grow weak, and which could pass through wars, massacres, and floods, could pass through all of human history, and the integrity of its soul would stay strong. A writer could suspend their soul in language, making the souls of writers like droplets of oil, suspended in the sea of life. You couldn't see the water, but you could see the drops, clear little circles, buoyant and complete. Art. From The Little Prince. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is tiresome for children to be always and forever explaining things to them. From Miss Ice Sandwich. Miss Ice Sandwich is a name I made up, of course. I thought of it the minute I first saw her. Miss Ice Sandwich's eyelids are always painted with a thick layer of a kind of electric blue, exactly the same color as those hard ice lollies that have been sitting in our freezer since last summer. There's one more awesome thing about her. If you watch when she looks down, there's a sharp dark line above her eyelids, as if when she's closed her eyes, someone started to draw on 2 extra eyes with a felt tip pen, but stopped halfway. It's the coolest thing. And then when she looks straight at me, she has those enormous eyes, which are so big I feel like I got swallowed up in them. They look exactly like the great big eyes of the dogs that I read about in a storybook long ago. What is the title of the book? Well, it's not only the title that I've forgotten. I can't even remember what happens in the story, but I do remember the faces of the dogs with their gigantic eyes. And finally, from the Bandit Queens. Over the years, loneliness had become a dead arm, useless and heavy, but nonetheless hers, so she lugged it around, her other appendages pumping harder to compensate for the burden. Now it was as though the arm was working in tandem, finally helping rather than hindering. She didn't realize she was whistling until she stopped, her feet hiccuping as she saw the visitor on the doorstep. So those are the 4 reads. I hope you enjoyed the little reading vlog. I do enjoy making videos like this. They're a lot of work, but I do enjoy it. If Allie ever watches this, hi! I hope this was flattering. I really enjoyed these books. There's a couple more like channels that I would like to do, but if there's anybody you want to suggest, you can let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking my videos, subscribing, and being kind. And I will see you all next video. Goodbye, punks.